Hi everyone, happy Monday. Thank you so much for sending in your videos of you performing your poems on Friday. Wow, were they ever amazing. I wanted to show a few of them, but I couldn't choose just one because they were so amazing. So well done. I think we have so many performers coming out of year one because they were so good. So we're going into our second and our last week of our poetry unit, all about Edward Lear, and you should be really proud of yourself because these are some really old poems that you've been exploring, and you've done such an amazing job understanding them and recreating them so far. So you should feel really proud of yourself because I'm really proud of you. And now I'm going to share my screen and we're going to have a look at a new Edward Lear poem this week. But before we do, we have to do our starter. So we know on a Monday, we look at different spellings and different endings and suffixes in our starters. So I have 3 sentences and I have 3 words that were your spelling words last week. So you'll be familiar with them down below. And your job is to choose the word that makes the most sense in each sentence. So sentence number 1. We had so much fun something on the trampoline yesterday. We had so much fun. You can try each word. We had so much fun jumped on the trampoline yesterday. You have to say, does that make sense? Doesn't sound quite right. I know. We had so much fun jumper on the trampoline yesterday. That doesn't really fit either, does it? Let's try the next one. We had so much fun jumping on the trampoline yesterday. What do you think? It's your choice. Number 2. I something so high that I touched the basketball net. I something so high that I touched the basketball net. And again, you can choose each of those words and try them out and see which one makes sense. And sentence number 3, have you seen my something? So each of those words, the red words at the bottom, jumped, jumper, jumping, is going to fit in one of the sentences. So pause the screen, have a go at writing those sentences down and figuring out which word is going to fit where. I know you'll do a really good job of that one because you have been doing such a good job of them so far. Okay, so looking at our learning for today. So today we're going to learn to use our imagination to visualize a poem. Now, I know you have amazing imaginations because I read your poems last week. So I don't think that will take too much learning. We just need to use them today. But visualizing is a skill that we do use it when we read stories, but because we read a lot of picture books, we often will have books with illustrations. So they already have pictures for us. So visualizing is when you use your mind to create the picture. So you don't have a picture beside you. You have to use your mind and listen to the words to create that picture of what is happening in the poem and who is in the poem. So today we're going to listen to a poem. We're going to answer some questions about the poem. And what you really need to do for your learning is listen for keywords or description in the poem. And that's what's going to help you visualize or make that picture in your mind of what's happening in the poem. So just looking again at what we've been talking about, what is poetry? We said poetry is a type of writing that is meant to be performed or read out loud. We talked about how it often repeats different words or phrases, and we've seen that in the other 2 poems that we've explored so far, and we might see it again, a bit of repeating. It's often like a song, and sometimes it's sung. Sometimes it can be funny. Sometimes it can have other emotions or different moods. It expresses emotions. Oh, and I think we should add in about that word we learned last week. Has different moods. So it has different moods. It can express different moods or different feelings in the poem, depending on how it's read or what words it uses. So now that we've kind of refreshed what poetry is, we're going to explore a new poem, which is called the Jumblies. This is a good poem. And again, it's by Edward Lear, but it's a very long poem. So we're actually only going to read verses 1 and 2 of it because it's very long. So I want you to just have a listen to me reading the Jumblies. And then we're going to ask some questions And then we're going to practice that visualizing. So the Jumblies. They went to sea in a sieve, they did. In a sieve they went to sea. In spite of all their friends could say, on a winter's morn, on a stormy day, in a sieve they went to sea. And when the sieve turned round and everyone cried, you'll all be drowned, they called aloud, our sieve ain't big, but we don't care a button, we don't care a fig. In a sieve we'll go to sea. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. They sailed away in a sieve, they did. In a sieve they sailed so fast, with only a beautiful pea-green veil tied with a ribbon, by way of a sail, to a small tobacco pipe mast. And everyone said who saw them go, oh, won't they soon upset, you know, for the sky is dark and the voyage is long, and happen what may, it's extremely wrong in a sieve to sail so fast. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. That was a tricky one to read, but it was really good. So a few questions about the Jumblies so far. How did the Jumblies travel the sea? What was their boat? They went to sea in a... That's right, it's a sieve. Now, a sieve, I've got a picture of it here because I thought we might not remember what a sieve is, but do you recognize that from your kitchen? Your parents might use it when they're boiling, when they're making pasta, or sometimes you put vegetables in it when you're boiling water over them. And you might notice it has lots of little holes all around it. So what is the sieve meant to do? We use it in the water table in reception. What happens when you pour water in a sieve? That's right, it has all those little holes. So all the water flows out of the sieve, which means that if you were maybe using it as a boat, why might that be a problem or a bit risky? I want you to have a think and pause the video. If that sieve, that picture that you can see, is the Jumblies' boat, why might that be a problem for them? And welcome back. Absolutely. I bet you've already said it because you're all so clever. If there's holes in their boat, then presumably that water could get in just as easily. So it could be a very dangerous adventure going to sea in a sieve. But that is how they traveled in the poem. And remember, we said these poems are nursery rhyme poems, so they often don't make sense. They're often kind of nonsense. That's what makes them so funny and fun to read, is that they don't have to make sense. So what do you think it would be like to travel the sea in a sieve? What do you think that would be like? Can you pause the screen and have a think? What do you think? And welcome back. Well, I can't wait to hear your ideas. Please jot down your ideas for number 2, because I would love to hear what you think and share them with the rest of the class tomorrow. But yeah, I think it would be a little bit scary to go to sea in a sieve. You wouldn't know if your boat would sink with all that water going in. And we've talked about floating and sinking in reception, and we're going to do more of it with our materials. So it could be a risky trip for those Jumblies. Now, what did the friends of the Jumblies say to them is my next question. And I'm going to go back to the poem so we can have a look. And when the sieve turned round and round, that's not their friends though, is it? Let's have a look. And here we are. And everyone said who saw them go. So I'm going to read that part to you. Oh, won't they be soon upset, you know? For the sky is dark and the voyage is long, and happen what may, it's extremely wrong in a sieve to sail so fast. So what was the warning that they were being given from their friends? Yeah, they were worried about them. They thought they might get upset. They said the sky is dark. And what do we know? If the sky is dark, what might be happening soon when the sky gets dark? So you can pause the video and share that. What happens when the sky gets dark? That's right. It's usually a sign that there's going to be a storm or maybe some rain. When the sky is bright and sunny, we know that the weather is going to be really nice. But when the sky gets dark, it's usually a sign that there might be a storm coming. And the voyage is long, so it's not a quick trip. And happen what may, so that means whatever happens, it's extremely wrong to sit in a sieve to sail so fast. So they're going very quickly in this boat that has holes in it. So it's stormy, it's a long trip and they're going around in a boat with holes in it. So they're feeling a little bit worried about them traveling in their sieve. But did that stop the Jumblies? It did not. They continued to sail. And again, what did they say to that? But far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. So they did not mind, did they? Right. Oh, and there's even more on this page. Look, let's explore this page. We're looking at what their friends could have said to them. They went to sea in a sieve, they did. In a sieve, they went to sea. In spite of all their friends could say, on a winter's morn, on a stormy day. Oh, so it's winter and it's stormy. In a sieve, they went to sea. And when the sieve turned round and everyone cried, so what did all their friends say? I'm going to highlight it down here so you can read it. Okay, I've underlined it. I want you to pause the video and I want you to have a go. What did their friends say? Look, you'll all be drowned. So everyone's warning. And what did they say back? They called aloud. Our sieve ain't big, but we don't care a button. We don't give a fig. In a sieve we'll go to sea. So they're very determined to go to sea, aren't they? They really want to go, even though they're in this boat. And they kept going. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. Okay. All right, so now we're going to listen again, and I want you to listen this time to spot some details about what the Jumblies looked like. And you might be wondering, why did Miss stop us and have us answer some questions about the poem? We do answer a few questions when we read a new story, but why do you think it's really important that we stop and we think about what's happening in the poem? So pause the screen and have a think. Why do you think I've stopped you and we've talked through the poem together? And welcome back. You might have some ideas. You might think, I don't know, Miss Madison, I don't know why you stopped. And maybe you just like talking about poems, which I do, that is true. But poetry, especially really old poems, have really old words and really old phrases. So it's not often the way that people talk nowadays. It's not usually the way that we would speak to each other. So sometimes really old books or really old poems can be quite hard to understand, which is why when we learn about them, especially in school, we have to stop and kind of talk them through one part at a time so we really understand what's happening in them. So good job for pausing through it. This is hard. It's not easy reading, but you're doing such a good job of it already. So we're going to listen again, and I want you to listen this time for listening to hear what the Jumblies looked like, okay? There are some description of them, so listen for what they looked like, and if you want to write it down or if you want to draw a quick picture of it, you can, because we're going to use that a bit later on. I'm going to read it again. So, The Jumblies by Edward Lear. They went to sea in a sieve, they did. In a sieve they went to sea. In spite of all their friends could say, on a winter's morn, on a stormy day, in a sieve they went to sea. And when the sieve turned round and everyone cried, you'll all be drowned, they called aloud, our sieve ain't big, but we don't care a button, we don't give a fig. In a sieve we'll go to sea. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. They sailed away in a sieve, they did. In a sieve they sailed so fast, with only a beautiful pea-green veil tied with a ribbon by way of a sail to a small tobacco pipe mast. And everyone said who saw them go, oh, won't they be soon upset, you know? For the sky is dark and the voyage is long, and happen what may, it's extremely wrong in a sieve to sail so fast. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live, and listen really carefully to this part. Their heads are green, their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. So could you hear, there was some repetition there. You could hear it repeated. What did those Jumblies look like? What do the Jumblies look like? What do they look like? Okay. Their heads are green. Their hands are blue. And we know what they're doing or they're riding, so they are in a sieve. So if they're in a sieve, if their boat is a sieve, do you think they're going to be really big creatures or people, or do you think they're going to be really small? Let's go back to that little picture we have of them. So they're in a sieve. What do you think? Let's look at that picture of a sieve I showed you. They fit an awful lot of people in there. So do you think they're going to be big people or very, very tiny? That's right. If you said they are very small. They have to be very small to fit in a sieve. Remember, we keep a sieve in our kitchen. So we couldn't fit regular sized people in there. So they must be very, very tiny in this magical nonsense story. So we've got some ideas about what the Jumblies look like. And if you get a little bit stuck on the next step, you can come back to this picture and you can pause the screen because it will give you some clues about what you need. Okay, so your challenge for today, your independent activity at home, is to draw and label a picture of the Jumblies on their sea adventure. So we've just read a poem about them. You're going to draw and label a picture of them. And to help you know exactly what kind of words you need to use, we've got this lovely word mat down below that says, now use these words to label your picture. So you can label the sieve, you can label the sea, you can label the Jumblies, you can label their green heads, their blue hands, that they're friends. You might have the Jumblies' friends outside of the boat. And we know there was a storm going on, so we'll need to see a storm as well. So all of these key words are words that you need to label, which means you need to show them in your drawing because this is the whole poem. This is what happened in the poem. So we need to have a storm. We need to have them at sea. We need to have the Jumblies in their sieve with their green heads and their blue hands. You can even show their friends who weren't on the boat with them. And then you will know if you can tick off every single one of these key words that you have that in your picture, then you'll know that you've done a really great job doing your picture, a very complete picture of their sea adventure. As a next step or a stretch challenge for you, I'm going to add a little stretch challenge because I think most of you, I think all of you can definitely do that part of the challenge. So your next step, I want you to write 3 to, no, I won't be lazy, I'll write 3 to 5 sentences about the Jumblies using the key words above. So you can write some sentences about them going on their adventure. You don't have to rewrite the poem, that's not what I'm asking you to do. You can write some sentences below your picture. So these are the Jumblies, they have green heads and blue hands. You can tell me more about them. So I'm going to be looking for all of that when you send in your work today, and I'm really excited. So step 1, you're going to draw your picture of the Jumblies. Step 2, you need to label it. And you've got the words that you need to use on the screen here. And step 3, can you write some sentences about the Jumblies? Remember, if you're in year 1 and you're writing sentences, we need capital letters, full stops, finger spaces, adjectives, and conjunctions. So if you can use and or so or because, even better. And I can't wait to see your beautiful work and your beautiful writing. And I will join you tomorrow for, I think, more work on the Jumblies. I hope you liked that poem. I liked that poem. It was a really silly one. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye.